Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Friend Wrap. I'm your host, Nicholas Lorimer, joined today by Chris Hattingh. Let's get into the first news story of today, and this is an emerging crisis in Northwest Province, where around Stilfontein, a large number of illegal miners, Zamazamas as they're often called, have been found to be trapped underground and have been trapped underground for 2 months. They are not able to come out. And the police and government have said they are not going to be assisting these people to get food or supplies, despite the fact that they are in this difficult situation. The minister and the presidency made a comment, in fact, that this was a good thing because the government would be able to, quote, smoke out the illegal miners by not helping them. However, some of the local community members, I assume some of whom are affiliated probably with the Zamazamas, have voiced a different view. So far, I think only 5 of these miners have been pulled out alive. They were pulled out alive yesterday. 3 of them were from Mozambique, 1 of them was from Lesotho, and 1 of them is a South African. So one of these people who's always, it's always slightly confusing. They're described as a community leader, but I don't actually know what that means. Gave some quotes to the media saying, "The only thing we received from government was our permission to pull out our people. Our objective is to save lives and retrieve dead bodies to give their families closure. We are communicating with those underground through letters. The illegal miners want to come out, but they don't have any strength and energy. They complained about sleeping next to decomposing bodies." Apparently, for the last 2 months after their food supply was intercepted by the cops, they had survived by eating toothpaste mixed with vinegar and salt, according to this member of the community. Now, apparently all hungry, thirsty, skinny, and pale. Talking about why these illegal miners were engaging in illegal mining, this person said, in reference to the minister, "She doesn't know our challenges in Stilfontein. I wonder if she has children. She is pompous and inhumane. She must see what those being retrieved look like and boldly say that they are killing illegal miners. The police stopped our food supply. We don't have problems with the police. We are from distressed communities. For years, we have survived from lawful mining. When those mines were closed, people went to the only source of income they knew, which is mining, and they did it illegally to survive." And I think that kind of sums up the issue here. Obviously, illegal mining is a problem. It's illegal. It has all sorts of negative consequences. It can cause danger to people above ground. And it's also riddled with a huge amount of violence. Often the illegal miners very quickly become tangled up in organized crime and will often fight and kill each other underground in very violent battles, or sometimes even above ground. Also, there's other side effects. Sometimes illegal mining poisons the local community because dangerous chemicals are used in the processing of various ores that are mined by illegal miners. So it causes a very serious problem for a lot of South Africans. However, at the same time, there is something to be said for why people go to do illegal mining in the first place. It's because they often have not really that much better in terms of options. Either they come from a very poor, depressed country like Lesotho, next door, or they are South Africans who just can't find work because of how high our unemployment rate is. In this particular case, it looks like South Africa's decline in the mining sector has been a significant contributor towards people going into illegal mining. These are people with skills to mine who then end up illegal mining when the legal mines close, as this community leader here claims has happened. And, I understand why the minister is being so callous and saying, basically we must just let these people die underground. But it is, I think, firstly, a very bad practice for government to be so callous with human life. These people should be arrested, not killed. I think this just highlights the major issues that will come with dealing with organized crime, and particularly with illegal mining. You need a sort of two-front approach. You need better, more strict, more organized, more thorough law enforcement, but you also need to improve the economic conditions under which people live. Well, otherwise, people are just going to keep doing this. South Africa has an enormous amount of minerals, and as much as government has made it difficult to set up legal business, that means that people are going to resort to illegal business in order to take advantage from that wealth. Chris, what do you make of this story?
So you've had, over the last few years, especially coming into focus, how for South African citizens, when they've seen evidence, or the perception has increased that the police service doesn't work for them, that their communities are riddled with crime, that no one from government or the policing side really takes them seriously. And then communities and people take these matters into their own hands. So there could be from that side, from many citizens, almost applauding of the minister and the presidency and Chaveni, her choice of words, her choice of sounding stronger on criminal activity and illegal activity. But I think if you don't do the sort of work that you've talked about in terms of the policing, and also in terms of getting the necessary levels of economic growth going, then the rhetoric, it won't really fix a lot of these fundamental issues. It'll make one feel good. It'll make you feel like government recognizes the issue, but it won't actually fix anything fundamentally. And also choosing this particular kind of language and these kinds of words, I'm not saying that one should be quote unquote soft on criminal activity and illegal activity, but there's also a way in which you, as someone of that high office, you represent South Africans, you represent the government, the view that government takes of citizens, regardless of whether they're engaged in legal or illegal economic activity or not, and what you think, how you think state resources should be used, how the police should engage with citizens. I think there's a very important and fine line sometimes to tread here. That is sometimes difficult because you get frustrated. You want someone maybe in government to be seen to be doing something, all this sort of stuff, but it's not the right, I think, attitude to have necessarily. Just on the economics, in our latest CRA macro review published for the month of October on the state of the country's provinces, the 7 provinces, so this country's 7 provinces other than Gauteng and the Western Cape, those 7 provinces, their collective share of the total population is 62.7%, but their share of GDP that they contribute to GDP is 52.8%. The rest of that 100% that would make up the 52.8 to 100 is delivered by the Western Cape and Gauteng. So it shows you our other provinces, and here especially we talk about Northwest, which has been so reliant on mining. When those sectors decline and there isn't economic activity, the sort of levels of desperation just increase slowly but surely over time. And fixing those things, I think, would go quite some way towards. It's never going to eliminate all crime. I think pretending that, opens up the door to very authoritarian leaders and governments, but they're getting some of these other things right in the economy. And there are lots of opportunities for the GNU in that regard, would help alleviate some of these tension points that we see then manifest in such inhumane, almost cruel language.
Exactly. There's just sort of this kind of not really do anything effective or systemic to deal with this problem. And then when you happen to trap 200 people underground or see them trapped underground, you just say, well, we'll let them die. It's not, this is not solving the problem. If these 200 miners die, unfortunately, there are going to be a lot of people in this country who are so desperate for money and work, and people from neighboring countries too, who will engage in this activity regardless. And that's exactly why we need to give them better alternatives. The mining industry in this country has been strangled by BE, by all sorts of red tape, by taxes, by bad infrastructure. And that mining sector, despite our huge mineral resources, has shrunk and closed down and become less important and employs less people. Until we fix those problems, we're going to keep getting people going underground into these hellish conditions. And this is not anywhere close to the first time that we've seen a Zama story like this of people trapped underground. They're going to keep happening until we sort out the bigger problems in both our law enforcement and also our economy. Okay,
Nicholas,
let's go on to our next story. Go ahead.
Add one quick thought, Joe. You can almost see the argument in terms of government and resources, limited resources. Maybe fair enough. Okay, government doesn't have to take the lead on rescuing the miners, but then try and support or coordinate or work with community groups or business groups that are trying to help these people. So the attitude with which you engage and the rhetoric you use, the language you use, as a GNU that has promised to be different from governments that came before, that wants to collaborate, that wants communities to take ownership of the resources around them, just then engage in a different manner versus maybe feeling that you as government again have to fix everything, use the limited resources you have and be put under pressure and you can't satisfy everyone anyway. work in a more collaborative approach, maybe. That would already signal a different sort of psychological or emotional step change, I think.
Right. Rescue them, then deport the ones who are here illegally, arrest the ones who have, who can have a crime proven against them, and add all of that information to databases so that that these are people who are involved in illegal mining. That seems like a better and more systemic approach to solving this problem than just sort of, kind of mocking them. All right, let's go on to our next story. But before we do that, I just want to quickly mention again that on the 20th of November in the East Rand in Edenvale, we will be hosting an event with our colleagues, Marius Rutt and Makone Maja. They're both regulars on the show. So if you want to see them in person, it will be in the comments section. And again, today on YouTube, go to our Quicket link. Tickets are free, but please do book ahead of time so that we get an idea of numbers. Our next story is this, the media headline from News 24, I think, says it quite well. Inside Gauteng legislature's shadowy deal with employees accused of fraud during COVID-19 spree. The Gauteng legislature had 32 employees who were accused of defrauding it. The Auditor General found that these employees had committed some serious malpractice, and that rose to a sort of criminal level by fraudulently claiming travel allowance for travel they didn't take illegally, and recommended that criminal charges be brought against these employees. Well, it looks like the Gauteng legislature has decided that after negotiations with the National Health and Allied Workers Union, NAHAWU, that the employers will collectively plead guilty to a lesser charge of negligence, which the legislature agreeing to drop the charges of fraud and corruption for claiming the travel stipends, which they were not entitled to. When asked by media people for comment on this, the Gauteng legislature speaker, I believe, just refused to reply to any of the questions or didn't answer them. It looks very much here like this is a sweetheart deal being arranged for politically connected union members by the ANC-controlled Gauteng legislature. What do you make of this, Chris?
Yeah, when you have, and we've highlighted this in many instances before, so when you have this mixing between labor, big government, sometimes big business, big corporates as well, in a context of low economic growth, declining quality of life, the incentives for this sort of protectionism or shielding of individuals, I think is just, those incentives are increased exponentially, and it manifests in these different ways, where the rhetoric would be on the part of the city that they want to spend resources well, they want to do things responsibly, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, when the rubber hits the road, you protect the vested interests as much as possible. We see this in South Africa's trade policy space, where we focus so much on protectionism, on master plans, on subsidies. It's all a way of maybe concentrating and increasing certain political parties or individual politicians' control over interest groups. And it's very difficult to shift those vested interests then over time to the benefit of the economy and the country as a whole. And I mean, this is a whole separate topic, but talk about like the performance in the education space and the vested interests on the part of unions that ensure that the reforms needed in that space don't happen, because at the end of the day, then you aren't going to see the improvement in outcomes that are necessary for the country.
No, exactly right. All right, I think that's all the time we have for today. We hope you found this show interesting. We'll be back tomorrow, of course, with the Daily Friend show on Friday. I hope you all have a wonderful day. Cheers, everyone. Have a good one. The Daily Friend Show and the Daily Friend are a project of the Institute of Race Relations, the IRR. The IRR is a think tank which was founded in 1929 to study race relations in South Africa and works to change government policy to improve race relations through non-racialism and to ensure the prosperity of all South Africans. If you like our work and would like to support us, please go to irr.org.za and click Support the IRR. Or you can go to thedailyfriend.co.za and click the Fund Us button.